Hey guys, I'm Roxy Diaz.
And I'm Free Marie.
And I'm Freddie, and welcome to Cocoa Butter's Voting Special.
The purpose of this show is to get each and every one of you informed enough to get ready to vote.
So what we're going to do is we're going to touch on some really important issues that affects us both locally and on a national level. But before we get started, what I want to know is how amped up and ready are you guys for all that we have in store for everybody?
Freddie,
I love Freddie. She's like,
if I see people doing that dance at the voter lines, I'm going to crack up. I'm super excited to get out and vote. I have a mail-in voter registration, and I can do the other way. So I'm ready either way. And I think I'm going to go out and do it because I want to be there with the people and feel the energy.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to vote. I vote every election that comes around, so this is no different, but 2020 is a whole different beast, so we all have to get out there, and I'm excited to get our audience informed.
Yeah, I am just with you guys too, except I will be home filling in my ballot and kind of making it like a pop quiz, Googling everybody and then filling it out at the same time. So that's going to be my strategy. But we're going to teach everybody about different strategies and what they could do. But first, inform them, Free.
That's right. In case you have been living under a rock somewhere and don't know what's going on, it's time for us to inform you. On the Republican side, we have Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Their policies include clean energy, protecting the right to bear arms, and limiting international interference.
And on the Democratic side is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Their policies include universal child care, closing the racial wealth gap, and more jobs for Americans. We pretty much know what these candidates stand for, but we're really here to get to the bottom of what Black and Brown people need on the micro level.
That's right, because what we're really looking for is better employment, accessible healthcare, and for Latinos especially, we're looking for immigration, right? Not just Latinos, but immigrants in this country. And I'm so glad that I have my friend, the founder of She Se Puede, and also This Is About Humanity. Elsa Collins is joining us right now to talk about Black and Brown communities and immigration rights. I'm so excited because this woman is so powerful and so informative. Yeah. When I heard that we were having this series, I was like, Elsa, I need Elsa right now. So thank you so much for joining us, Elsa.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about both your organizations.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm one of the co-founders of She Se Puede, which is a new digital lifestyle community founded by 10 amazing Latinas, including America Ferrera and Eva Longoria, Jess Morales, Monica Ramirez, Stephanie Valencia, Christy Halberger, Alex Kondraki. There are 10 of us involved, and we really came together and started looking around at our community and said, what is out there for us that speaks to our needs, our desires, our wishes, and fully embraces who we can be as a community. So that's really where She Se Puede was born. And we're so excited to be in existence. We're excited for people to be a part of this community like you, Roxy. Thank you so much. And really, we're looking to empower Latinas, not just in their household, but also in the community and to be civically engaged.
So can you tell us about This Is About Humanity and what policy changes that your organization can benefit from?
Yeah, so This Is About Humanity, I'm one of the co-founders of. We were founded in 2018 in response to the family separation crisis. We were all seeing what everyone was seeing, these children being separated from their parents, hearing the recordings of them crying out for mama y papa. It was a visceral reaction that I think all of us had. I grew up on the border, so I have a personal connection to what's happening. And, we just wanted to respond, to raise awareness about the issue so that people could feel more comfortable talking about it. A lot of times when people talk about immigration or family separation, they feel like it's complicated. They're not really sure what's going on. And so they don't feel comfortable speaking out or speaking up on the issue. So that's really what This Is About Humanity has as its mission. And clearly what we would benefit from is policies and decisions that respect the laws of asylum that have existed in this country for many years. So slowly we have been peeling back the ability to seek asylum, which is it's a human right to seek asylum. A lot of times people say, like, is that really the right way to come into this country? But, seeking asylum is one of those ways. And so we want to make sure that we're respecting asylum laws and that we're protecting individuals who are seeking refuge.
Yeah, so we love the work that you all are doing to make sure that the people seeking asylum are protected, So sort of along those lines, I'd love to chat with you to find out, are there voters' rights for undocumented residents?
So people who are undocumented in this country, unfortunately, don't have a right to vote. So I want to encourage everybody who does have a right to vote to think about what that really means and to vote for those who can't in this country. So I'm relying on everyone who cares about our undocumented brothers and sisters, our dreamers, our DACA brothers and sisters, to really vote on their behalf so that we can make sure that we're protecting them and that we are putting people in positions of power who have an idea about how to have a path to citizenship, how to make positive immigration reform in this country. So I think that's the message I want everyone to walk away with, is if you're sort of on the fence about voting because you don't think that your life is going to change either way, know that someone else's life is going to change in a big way.
And I wanted to follow up with that. I know with She Se Puede in your organizations, we do focus a lot on Latin immigration, but it is all immigration in this country. I always tell the story of how I came to this country as an immigrant, and when I did seek my citizenship, when I got sworn in, it wasn't just Latinos, it's Asians, African, Indonesians, Caribbean. So when you think about who you're voting for, and even though you may have the right, but that next person doesn't, what kind of things do you like to arm voters with before they go on the poll? One of my favorite things that you say is, if you have a take-home test, take it home and study it and fill it in while you're voting.
Think about an election as a job performance review. We all get job performance reviews, and when you do well, you get a thumbs up, and when you don't do well, some not good things happen. So an election is an opportunity to give a performance review for those that are in power. So we want to make sure that we're studying and we know the issues, we know how they voted, we know their positions on the things that matter to us, because we're about to give them a job review.
We love you. We love your organization, and keep on fighting for us. Girl power. We love it. Thank you.
Every year is important to vote, but this is one of the most important times to vote in our lifetime. Between the pandemic, the ongoing protests, and the tensions, things are at an all-time high. The murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery were clearly a call for immediate police reform.
Absolutely free. And our next guest is using his power to enact change. You know him from Amazon's hit show, The Boys. Please welcome Laz Alonso. Laz, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. How y'all doing?
We're good. Freddie, that's Laz.
Hey, Laz.
Freddie.
Yeah, there it is. We was waiting for it.
There it is.
It's a pleasure
We were
to meet you,
waiting.
Freddie.
Come on, Freddie.
All right. Okay, so how are you using your celebrity to help push forward the Afro-Latino agenda?
I really don't look at it as using celebrity. I feel like it's really about using humanity. I happen to have a platform. I happen to have a group of people that have supported my career from day one. And so now when the tables are turned and they need support because there are injustices happening all around us, it would behoove me to do the same that they have done for me for all these years, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a very loyal fan base that's been there with me through my highs and my lows. So how do I use it? To amplify their voices. I'm not on the front lines. There are other people who live this battle every single day, and I feel like as a quote unquote celebrity, it would be disingenuous to try to step on out in the front lines and grab a megaphone and try to act like this is my fight. No, this is our fight. And there are leaders that are doing this morning to night who are educated with the day-to-day battles that they're facing, representing the community and its activism. And it's up to us to use our platform to amplify their voices, not try to come in and and because I'm a celebrity now, let me just come up with something and wing it. It's not how it works.
Right.
And there's one thing that I know about you, Laz, is you're a huge news buff. You're always watching the news. You're always staying up to date with what's going on in the world. And what I'm curious to know, with everything that we see in the news and with COVID, we see so much police brutality. How much do you think that's actually going to affect people going out to the polls and voting, and just voting in general, especially our Black and brown community?
So I've gotten off the news rocks to a certain degree. I've downgraded the amount of news that I consume by over 50%. And I've been investing that time into talking to people and spending one-on-one time trying to get people to become politically active, to register to vote, to check to make sure they're registered to vote, and to go out and vote. The problem that I'm finding is that there are very, very well-paid people who look like us that are designed to, their main objective is to make us feel disenfranchised and like our votes do not matter. No matter who you vote for, or no matter who gets elected, it won't make a difference in your life. And that is simply false. That is fake. And it's unfortunate because they are very well trained, very convincing, and very well financed. And if voting didn't make a change and didn't matter, then why would they be spending so much time and effort and money to get us not to vote? Ultimately, the system needs to be changed. And the only way that it's going to change is from the inside out. We can protest till we're blue in the face. And it is a very effective way to bring attention to a situation. But once you bring the attention to the situation, you need the right people on the inside to carry out and create policy and then enforce policy. Because it ain't enough just to create policy. You have to make sure that the people that are on the inside enforce it. You know, we look at the case with Breonna Taylor, and a lot of new information is coming out now. And we realize that a lot of what we heard that attorney general say was just simply not true. And if we don't have the right people on the inside that are going to enforce policy with a certain level of humanity in mind, then we're basically giving up.
What do you do? How do you choose and how do you consider a candidate that speaks to you? And what's your process when it comes to voting?
I mean, that's a good choice. I mean, that's a good question because there are so many people on the state and local level that I still have my homework to do before November 3rd. So admittedly, I have work to do between now and then, you know, still, even though I already know when it comes to voting in the general election for president, who I'm going to vote for. When it comes to all the other state and local people, I have to do my homework. I have to do my research, you know, and look them up and find out what articles have been written about them and what kind of voting records they have, what kind of moves they have. Because, like, you know, there's a saying that says all skin folk ain't kinfolk, you know, so you got to make sure that the person that you're voting for speaks directly to the things that you want out of life.
Thank you, Laz, and everybody that's a fan of Laz. Be sure you check him out on Amazon. The Boys, that is out. He's doing phenomenal work on that.
So we are back at it again to make sure you're as informed as possible for November 3rd.
We have so much information for you, and we have some more guests to talk to. But before we do, here are some quick facts that you should know. The 15th Amendment gave Black men the right to vote. The 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote, excluding women of color.
And did you know that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 gave us universal voting rights? And just because we are legally able to vote, it doesn't mean that we don't face other challenges.
Activist and author Mark Lamont Hill is here to talk about challenges like voter suppression and what it looks like. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Good to see you.
Yes, with the hoodie. Come on. I knew Mark was going to come with it.
I love it. And
pearls right now, Mark.
I love it. It says free. You wore that for me, Mark. Thank you.
You already know.
Good to see you, Mark.
You too.
Let's talk about voter suppression. Can you give us some examples of what voter suppression can look like?
Yeah, I mean, basically, voter suppression is an attempt to take people who should be voting and stopping them from voting. And so voting suppression can look like not having enough machines at the polls. It could be having not the right language signs up in a neighborhood. For example, if there's a neighborhood where everyone speaks Spanish as a first language or as a primary language, or if I'm in Dearborn, Michigan, where everyone speaks Arabic or a lot of people speak Arabic as a primary language, and all the signs are in English, it might make it harder to find the polls or get the mail or read what's mailed to me. Voter ID laws are one of the primary ways, though, that we see voter suppression. Demanding that people have certain types of IDs when they come to the polls will lower the chances that poor people, that very, very old people, and others have access to the polls, because they may not have the resources necessary to get an ID, because a whole bunch of folk who may work legal jobs, who work really hard, may not be able to get a state ID.
Why do you think voter suppression happens more in Black and brown communities?
Because, quite honestly, if everybody voted, I'm not even talking, just if everybody voted, the elections would turn out probably the same way every election cycle. And so a lot of times, particular people in power, particular parties, I don't want to get too partisan, because I know we're talking about voting right now and not politics per se. But a lot of times the question becomes, how does a party win when they don't have the most votes? Well, a lot of times they win because all the people who can vote don't vote. And so what the powerful often do, regardless of their political party, is try to create rules or situations that discourage people from voting. And so then the numbers get lower and lower and lower. And so, I mean, imagine if I was on a call with you three right now, and I said, well, I want us to vote on some policies, and I want to make policies so that men run everything. It's three of y'all and one of me. So I'm not going to win those votes. But if I start making new voting rules, like only people with hoodies can vote, right? Or only people who worked at BET could vote. I could cut like three people. I could cut at least one person right there, right? And I keep making rules and it's the law. And then eventually I might be able to get it so that it's 1-to-1 or 2-to-1. And I might be able to convince Roxy to come on my side and convince Free to come on my side, right? And so that would be the logic, and that's what we see. Parties don't win by the majority of votes. They win by the margin of people who don't have access to the vote.
Got it.
And I want you to really, really explain to people, Mark, what is the difference between voter suppression and voter fraud? Because a lot of they skew that line. And I saw your vein popping out when you was ready to choose a party and talk about bipartisan stuff that we're not supposed to talk about. But I'm just gonna leave that right there.
See, I follow the rules. I'm mad, but I'm gonna follow the rules.
Thank you, Mom.
So I said voter suppression is processes and laws that take people who could or should be voting and making it harder for them to vote. Voter fraud is people who should not be voting and creating processes and laws, or not laws necessarily, but processes that make it that allow them to vote. For example, my Uncle Bobby, he died in 1994. If he were to vote, that would be voter fraud because he can't vote. But we've seen states where people who are dead have somehow managed to get on a voter roll. If I vote twice, that would be voter fraud. If I'm 16 and I vote, that would be voter fraud. Voter fraud is often the excuse that people use to justify voter suppression, right? So they say, well, we don't want anybody to show up and vote wrong. We don't want anybody to show up and be fake at the polls. So we're going to make all these rules and laws that make it harder to get to the polls. That's why you need an ID. And that's the argument that some people will make. They'll say, well, you need an ID to get in the club. So if you need an ID to get in the club, why wouldn't you need an ID to vote? And the answer to that question, I think it's an important question, is I don't have a constitutional right to go to Magic City or whatever club, right? I don't have a constitutional right to do certain activities. I have a constitutional right to vote. And the 24th Amendment, just to give you one example, the 24th Amendment makes it illegal to have a poll tax. The reason it's illegal to have a poll tax is because if I make people have to pay a tax at the voting booth, then what I'm doing is I'm making it harder for poor people to vote and easier for rich people to vote, which will skew an election. It undermines democracy. Well, if I need an ID to vote, and I say, well, you just need an ID. Everybody need an ID. But how do I get an ID? Well, I need a social security. I need my social security card and my birth certificate. How do I get that? I got to get in the car, got to drive to the office, got to fill out this stuff, got to write a check, got to mail it out, got to have an address to get it to. That becomes a poll tax in its own way because I'm having to spend money to do something to vote. And so that's why the voter fraud and voter suppression conversation is so important. Nobody wants voter fraud, but we don't want to create rules that are so intense that they actually lead to suppression. And let me be real clear about this. Voter fraud happens very, very rarely in comparison to voter suppression. People do not lose and win elections because of voter fraud. They lose and win elections because of voter suppression. You have a better the odds of voter fraud are so minimal. You have a better chance of winning a presidency by voter fraud. You have a better chance of winning the Powerball. You know, a better chance of winning a house on Publishers Clearinghouse. You know what I mean? The odds are so small. Whereas with voter suppression, we see it all the time. One last thing, because this is something that people need to think about when they vote this year, and I need everybody to vote. I don't care. I mean, I might care, but I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I just need you to vote your conscience and vote. But when you vote, we also have to think about this idea of gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is the practice where they draw your district in a way that either makes your vote less powerful in an area, right? So, for example, if there's 100 black people in a town, and I can put one black person in each neighborhood, or each district, or 10 in each district, then there's no powerful black vote. Right, so I'm watering down your vote by drawing the district in weird ways. Because when you look at how districts are drawn in cities and states, they're not drawn like straight lines. That would make sense. They're drawn sometimes like this. You know, back in the day, one was drawn like a salamander, which is why it's called gerrymandering. And so they draw it so that all the black people are spread out, or all the poor people are spread out, or all the Italians are spread out. Or they make it so that all those people are in one place. Like, you know what? Y'all gonna get this one district. Y'all gonna get Harlem. Y'all gonna get. Right, just one no, right? So instead of having you have an impact in every election, we'll just say there's going to be 10 districts and one is going to be black. One is going to be Latinx. And then that way it still lessens the impact, right? It's this idea, when you spread it out, it's called cracking. When you do it the opposite way, it's called packing. But in each case, we're trying to water down the vote. And that's another way of suppressing our vote, because we're making our vote not matter as much. That's why it's important for everybody to vote at every election, at every level.
I love your passion surrounding voting. We love that you stuck to the rules. We appreciate you.
Thank y'all, man. And more importantly, thank y'all for the work y'all are doing. What y'all are doing right now, all three of y'all, is the work of justice and freedom. This is the work that will make the world better than we found it. And y'all need to be applauded for this. I love y'all for this.
Thank you. We love you too.
Thank you so much. Thank y'all. Peace.
Felony disenfranchisement prevents convicted felons from voting. Celebrities like Mike Tyson recently chimed in on the matter, though, saying that this election would be his first time voting. He never thought he could vote because of his felony record, and he's finally proud to vote, and we're so happy for you, Mike.
Yes, we are. Also on Big Boy's radio show, rapper Snoop Dogg said, and I quote, "For many years, they had me brainwashed thinking that you couldn't vote because you had a criminal record."
And I think that this next guest is the perfect guest to talk about this topic right now. Hailing from the BX, Byway Miami, that's where he's calling in from. He's here to share his opinions on felony disenfranchisement. Please welcome to the show our dear friend, Fat Joe. I just gave you that 106 & Park Joey Crack in the building intro.
We call that a platinum introduction. Platinum.
We know you got to get to the big show in just a little bit. But Joey, thank you so much for taking time out for us. Real first, let's just jump into it. I want to know for you in particular, how has your family been impacted by the criminal justice system when it comes to voting?
Oh, wow. I have a lot of friends. Voter suppression been happening before we even knew it was voter suppression. So the minute you get locked up or something, you become not eligible to vote. So now your voice doesn't count. So we've been impacted for years and years and years in the hood with voter suppression.
Now, felony laws do vary state by state. Do you think every state should allow felons to vote?
I mean, you know, from my understanding, there's other countries that from the second you're born, you're eligible to vote once you hit a certain age. So it's not like you need a voting card. You don't need an ID. You don't need a registration. It's your right as being a citizen of that country. So everyone should have the right to be able to vote and be heard. Because we're all Americans, even though some people may have made a mistake in their life, and I also believe that people can change. I believe that people can change. Who I was when I was 18, 20, 25 is not who I am now. So
Right.
I think that, we shouldn't always be penalized for something we've done in the past.
Absolutely. So how does it make you feel to hear about Snoop Dogg and Mike Tyson's excitement to vote for the first time?
I'm glad Snoop Dogg is able to vote, who's a very, very prominent figure in our community, who's been telling everybody to register to vote, who's been there. And I am Mike Tyson, that's an American icon. That's exactly
Right.
what I mean. You may be able to make a mistake or two in life, but that doesn't define you. You can change. So I'm proud of both of them.
Do you know a lot of people that are dealing with that right now?
Well, my sister Remy Ma, she's not allowed to vote because she did that time. And Remy is really aware of politics and her surrounding, and she would love to vote and can't vote. So it's like, we deal with that. I got so many friends that's been locked up that's not able to vote. I mean, unfortunately, we've been almost brainwashed to believe that we don't deserve the right to vote because somebody got locked up or did some jail time. It's pretty much a brainwash job.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Yes, thank you, Fat Joe, so much for joining us today. You were super helpful, super informative, and I know everyone is grateful for you being here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Tell everybody to get out there, register to vote, and actually go vote. And we got to go out there and vote as one. All right, guys.
So guys, here's one thing. Something that we didn't think about are the elections in our hometowns and how they change our everyday lives.
We all have to show up for our presidential election, and we must be proactive in our local elections.
And guys, I'm so excited because as we're talking about the importance of local voting, this next woman, she knows all about elections and most importantly, the local level of things. Please welcome Alicia Johnson to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here because I stress so much to people. Guys, it's not only about the presidential vote. It's about who you're electing into office, who you're electing in to be a judge, our sheriff, everything. Could you please knock it into a dome right now, the importance of the local vote?
I'm so glad you said that. And my background is in presidential politics, but all of the issues that I have fought for my entire career, and actually my entire life, from reproductive health care, civil rights, voting rights, racial justice, those are literally impacted at the local level. I talk to college students all the time and they say, Alicia, I can't see why it's so important for me to vote in the presidential election because things aren't changing. And I flip that on them and ask them, what's your number one issue? When I asked the question to some students at Morehouse College, they mentioned criminal justice reform because they were young Black men. And I said, well, listen, there is an ability to elect over 2,400 attorneys at the state and district level who are managing the cases that we are all protesting against. And the interesting thing about that is those 2,400 elected prosecutor attorney positions, only 25 of them are Black women. Only a small percentage of them are Black people. And so we have the ability to change politics and policies at the local level that will impact us within that year of us voting if we get out in these local elections. So yes, the top of the ticket is important, but it's really those local elections where we're talking about judges, attorneys, superintendents, city councils, school board members, you name it. Those are all electable positions that really impact our day-to-day life.
But propositions as well. People ignore propositions and it's like, yo, these are like rights that we're voting into office and we don't even know. It baffles my mind when we complain about something, but it's like we didn't go and vote for it because, hey, it's every 2 years for our local representatives. It's not every 4 years most of the time.
Right. That's right. I mean, we think about the things that folks really care about, from legalizing marijuana that unfortunately, without it being legalized, has over-incarcerated so many Black and brown folks. We think about legalizing same-sex marriage. All of these started out as state propositions within California and Oregon and Colorado. And that went all the way up to the federal level for some, and we're still fighting for a federal policy to legalize marijuana across the country, right? And so to your point, I'm glad you brought this up. A lot of these start with propositions. There are districts that are putting propositions around how you can, incarcerate people or the rights that they have restored when they get out of jail or prison. And so that's so important for people to pay attention to the propositions that are on their ballots.
Yes, thank you so much for that explanation. So in past elections, how were you able to bridge the gap between local voters and state candidates?
I think the key to a lot of this is storytelling. So I've been fortunate to work on President Obama's election. I've worked with Hillary Clinton's campaign. I worked on Senator Elizabeth Warren's presidential campaign. And right now I'm currently working with the Joe Biden campaign. And to be honest, while these are national presidential campaigns, the way that we've been able to move voters to be enthusiastic and to be engaged is by local stories, local community leaders. Oftentimes in the work that I do, I get asked to bring influencers and celebrities and people with millions and 100,000 followers to engage in the campaign. But what I really find is those local community leaders are the trusted voices. So the church first lady or the hairdresser at our favorite salon or the barber or our favorite disc jockey, these tend to be better messengers for voters to get them engaged on the issues that pertain to them. And it's not just talking about them being out here talking about the candidate that they love. They're holding roundtables as small Black business owners. They are having conversations about access to healthcare and what a law means for them as they are on their entrepreneurship journey, or they just graduated from college and may not have the job that they want. And so these local influential people who have the trusted voice of the community, who have the authentic stories, that is really how we bridge that gap and bring people along the process.
I love that you guys are doing it the way, because people around you, if you see them doing it, you're more likely to do it and follow in their footsteps. So that makes perfect sense. Valencia, how does 1063 West Broad inform people about the issues that affect Black and Brown communities?
Yeah, so we work with different companies and organizations and major brands on issues that they care about. For me, full stop, you have to be committed to racial justice and you have to be committed to gender equity and pro-choice causes. And oftentimes we take big brands who say, I want to do more for people of color, I want to do more for women of color, and I want to connect them on certain issues. And sometimes they'll say, I don't want to be political. And I said, well, actually, in our country, the personal has become political, and you actually have to take a side. If we look at the current occupant in the White House, he's taken a side, and so therefore we have to take a side. And so we try to tap into the culture leaders and the creators, whether it's the clothing brands, whether it's the storylines that we're seeing in TV and film, whether it's technology and the latest trend that's happening on Twitter. How are we tapping into that authentic engagement, to these culture moments around critical issues related to people of color? And so I love what so many organizations are doing. We were talking about the Versus Challenge before we all got on here. Right. Now they're using that platform to talk about voting. We're seeing that award shows are talking about voting. They're bringing in these critical elements of our right to exercise, our right to vote. And so that is what 1063 is doing, working with different candidates and getting them on platforms with entertainers, with influencers, people who, I'll hear people who say, oh, you got so-and-so to do this Instagram live with this person, and I didn't even know they were politically engaged. But that is a way to marry two people who care about a certain issue, but come from different industries, different backgrounds together to really engage with folks. One of the things that I love that the Biden campaign recently did was we put President Obama in the shade room. Talk about getting to the culture. We went to the shade room.
It happened. There's 20 million followers I heard on the shade room. 20 million votes with you. Alexia, we're all in this together. We just want to thank you for taking the time to share your passion with us about voting and how important it is, not just right now in this election, but every election. So thank you so much for sharing your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sisters. Thank you.
Yes, super important. Also, there's a direct connection between voting and the local elections and getting our needs met on a national level. It's all important, and I'm really happy that we had Alicia here to break it all down for us.
Our next guest knows all about community engagement. She's the CEO of WING, and she was also the former National Youth Vote Director. And we actually go way, way, way back. Please welcome Felicia Butterfield. Hey!
Hey, Mama. We love you. Oh my gosh, girl. I'm gonna fan out because if there's two girls that I fan out about, it's Felicia and Rihanna. Those are like up there for me.
Exactly.
Hey, Felicia. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. You being the daughter of a U.S. congressman, we love Mr. Butterfield over there. I want to know for you, I always stress the importance of local voting in your own towns, in your own community. How important is it to tell people to be informed, not only in the big ballot, but also on a local level as well?
It's crazy, Roxy, and you and Freddie too, that I grew up in a small town in North Carolina called Wilson, rural part of the South, a southern state, that typically always votes red, right? So growing up in the South in the 80s and 90s, both of my parents were elected officials. My dad, as you mentioned, is a United States congressman, but started as a judge in the local courts there. And then my mom is a North Carolina state representative. And long story short, I remember as early as 5 years old, understanding the importance of thinking globally in the work that you want to do, maybe in the dreams that you have in life, but having to operate locally. And so for me, I think it's important to focus so much on who we're electing as the next president of the United States, but also thinking about the state elections and the local elections to make sure that you're getting good people in those seats. I've seen great politicians, they exist, they're out there. My parents are two examples of that. And so I really believe that it's less about politics and more about just getting the right people in office that are going to fight for you.
Not just the big national ones, the lights and camera actions, but the real work is done locally.
Yeah, and free, like if you think about, the bridge that may be broken in your small town, or, the things that you have to do locally in your, right in the neighborhoods that you live in, that happens at the local level. And so, again, it's important to think about who's going to be the next president of the United States, but you also have to make sure that you're really voting down ballot based on the people that really care about the issues that matter to you every single day.
Right.
Absolutely. So you clearly come from a long line of powerful political figures, and you've also done a lot of this work in your life as well. So I just want to know, how do you use your past experiences to encourage others to get involved in their communities?
I think, Freddie, the first thing is, for any young person watching, I definitely was one of those people when I was young, like, hey, does my vote really matter? Do I really even want to work in politics? Because both of my parents worked in politics. And so, I questioned those things when I was younger, like, does my vote really count? Should I really be a part of this? And I can honestly say it does. And so when I worked for President Obama as the National Youth Vote Director, I was able to witness firsthand as I traveled across the country, the power of young people, the power in your voice, the power in your vote. And so if ever there is a time for you to activate your vote, it is right now. And young people have the power. So, I think that we think that we don't have as much power the younger that we are, but you actually have all the power because you're the future and you're the now. And so, if it's your first time voting, or if you're voting for the first time in a long time, just remember that, when it feels hard, when it feels too big or too impossible, you actually do have the power. And so make sure that you use it on November 3rd and leading up to the election.
Well, that's it in a nutshell right there. Thank you, Lucia. We so appreciate you coming to sit and talk with us. And I hope that every young person hears your words because you actually work with the youth vote. So you know what it takes to get them to vote. And we just want to thank you for coming and sitting with us today. It must be time for another hip hop summit or something. I feel one coming on.
Listen, free. I know.
Can you remember?
I do remember. We travel all over this country together. Free,
yes.
Roxy, Freddie, it was powerful and it was magical. And so thank you, ladies, for what you're doing here, because I think it's so important now with COVID and everything to take it digital, right? So we're in a virtual world right now and the work don't stop. And so
the work don't stop. And if there's somebody that's the queen of digital masterclasses, it is Felicia Butterfield right now. If you don't know. Now you know. But thank you again so much. We really appreciate you joining in with us. So thank you so much. We love you.
Bye-bye. Love you.
Ladies.
November 3rd is the big day. You're registered to vote. You know all the candidates and what they stand for. You watch the debates. You know what issues are important to you and your family. It's time to make your choice.
Yes, I'm so ready to vote. It's been time. It's been such a long time coming. I'm so excited. But we have some questions that we want to answer for you guys. So how should you prepare before you hit the polls? First, choose how you plan to vote. Next, know your local election dates and deadlines. Next, wear bipartisan clothing. And then finally, stay in line. Just stay in line, commit. I know it could be long, but it will be very much worth it if you just stay in line and cast your vote.
Exactly. Act like it's a pair of new Jordans that is coming out on release day until you get that purchase, all right? Don't go anywhere until you vote. But let's be real. The pandemic is affecting this year's election, and that shouldn't stop you from casting your vote. There are many opinions available to us to make sure that we are safe on election day.
All right, so we're jumping back into BuzzFeed world for a second. BuzzFeed news reporter Hayes Brown is going to tell us about voting on election day and what to expect after. Welcome, Hayes Brown.
Hi, thanks for having me, you guys.
Hi, hey.
So
I love you wearing the BuzzFeed hoodie.
Right.
Old school
Yeah.
fashion, bring it back.
So Hayes, let's jump right in. What safety measures can voters take on election day?
Well, if you are voting in person on election day, then safety measures like you would going to the grocery store, to be honest. You want to be wearing a mask, you want to be socially distancing as much as possible, and you want to be aware of the fact that we are still in a pandemic, and that shouldn't run up against your right to vote. So if you're going out to the polling location, know where you're going, have the location at hand in your brain, what location you're going to, try and be in and out as best you can. I know that for a lot of people that's not the case, which is very unfortunate. I know it's going to be hard for a lot of people because the lines are probably going to be pretty long this year. A lot of people want to vote, but still, while you're waiting in line, it's your right to vote, your right to stay in line until the polls close, until you've had the right to vote. So do your best to keep that social distance, to keep that 6 feet apart from people around you, even as the line seems infinite.
Thank you, Hayes. Now, in the past with elections, it always seems like we're sitting at the TV and we're waiting for that result to come through. It's a little different this year, right? How long is it really going to take to count all the votes realistically?
We might have a case where the president declares victory just based on the returns from November 3rd. But we're not going to know for sure who has won unless it's a complete blowout in the Electoral College until much later.
Let's talk about the chain in command, if there will be a chain in command. What happens after we get those results and the transition? Because it's not automatic once we know who the winner is. And in this case, it's going to take a minute for us to really get those results.
Yeah, it is. And so here's where it gets tricky because election law, unfortunately, is not very clear in a lot of ways. Hopefully, this runs normal, runs smooth. We know within a couple of weeks who has won each of the electors. Both candidates agree, yep, that is the correct result. The Electoral College meets, no drama, they vote. We have a president sworn in for a new term come January. But like I said, this is a weird year, so there's a lot up in the air and a lot to look out for.
Right.
So be wary after Election Day that it's not over.
You were like, I hope it runs smooth and hopefully not. I'm like, have you been in 2020 with us? Because ain't nothing about this year running smooth.
I know. I'm concerned. I am concerned, but I want everyone to know what sort of processes are in place right now so that if things do look weird, they can say, all right, I know what is happening right now, and here's if I should or should not be really freaking out right now.
Right. Deep breaths, everybody. It's going to be all right. We're all in this together.
So one of the things I can say is Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, if we do get to that last situation, she sent out a letter to her Democratic colleagues saying, look, we got to run up the vote this year then. We can't let any of our seats slide. We have to make sure that we win an even bigger majority in the House to make sure if we do have to make this decision that we have more states behind us. But at the same time, the Trump campaign and the GOP, the RNC, they're prepared to file a lot of motions after Election Day to help decide which ballot should be counted and which shouldn't. So it's going to be tense. Let's put it that way. It's going to be tense.
That's a nice way to put it. Paige, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate all the information, all the gems that you just dropped on us. Thank you so much.
Glad to do it.
Super informative. And also, we would love to spotlight the organization that brought us all together.
That's right. Let's go ahead and say it. And Still I Vote. And Still I Vote, guys. It's a group that takes action against all forms of voter suppression and empowers communities across the nation to stay active in the election.
Our final guest is a part of the campaign And Still I Vote. Please welcome Lee Chapman. We're so happy to have you here today, Lee. We've been talking about voting and youth and rights, and we want to know a little bit more about the campaign that you're working with, And Still I Vote.
Thank you so much for having me. So And Still I Vote is actually a project of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights, and we're the nation's largest and oldest civil rights coalition. We've actually been around for 70 years, and we've been at the front lines of every major civil rights battle, from the passage of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So we knew, because of voter suppression in our country, that we needed to have a campaign to shine a spotlight on voter suppression and really mobilize people to take action. So that's why we launched And Still I Vote. We launched it earlier this year in Selma, Alabama, actually on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where the late Congressman John Lewis, was beaten and bloodied for civil rights and for voting rights in our country. And so that was such an important moment for us. And we knew that voter suppression was alive and well in 2020. You just have to look at the 2018 election. Look at Georgia, where there were massive voter purges. There were polling place closures in Black neighborhoods. There were, long lines of 5 to 7 hours for Black people to vote. So we launched this campaign, and then COVID-19 hit, which is just another barrier to the ballot that people are facing, especially Black and brown voters.
And you speak about the Honorable John Lewis, and I know he'd be smiling upon you right now, knowing that we're still fighting against voter suppression. And that's one of the messages that we've been kind of pounding on people, to go out there and know what your rights are to go vote. But I do want to also shed light on the HEROES Act, and it's important. Can you shine some light on that for me, please?
Sure. So when COVID-19 hit, we knew that this was going to be a challenge for voting rights in our country. And, election officials needed additional funds and resources so voters could cast their vote safely this year without a worry or concern of contracting COVID-19. So we were pushing and advocating for Congress to provide more funding so states could have PPE, so they could have more poll workers, so they could have more vote by mail ballots and more early voting days, so people could safely social distance and cast their ballot. But unfortunately, because of partisanship in our Congress, that bill was actually blocked by the Senate. It passed the House in May, and it had over $3.6 billion in funding for elections. But Senator McConnell actually blocked it, and it's been sitting on his desk for over 140 days without action, which is really a shame, because we should want to have a democracy where more people can participate. Our elected leaders should be doing everything that they can to provide more resources for voters to safely cast their ballot in the middle of a pandemic. And it's unfortunate that some elected leaders just don't see that. So advocates like the Leadership Conference, our partners, we've been litigating, we've been advocating, and also some private businesses have actually stepped up to the plate and have provided that critical funding that we need for states to operate safe elections this year.
Yes, thank you so much. So I do want to just ask a follow-up, because I do feel like people in general, it's like people who are eligible to vote in America, we a lot of times feel like no matter what we do, if something gets to an elected official's desk and there's legislation that needs to be signed and he's just letting it sit there, like, what can we do as citizens to really help to push that initiative forward when it feels hopeless in that way?
I think it's really important that we hold our elected leaders accountable. And, if they're not doing what we want them to do in Congress or in state legislatures or in the city hall, we need to vote them out. You have to make sure you're registering to vote, make sure you vote in every election, from local election to state elections to federal elections, because what they do have impact on our everyday lives. So that's one thing that we try to encourage, is that people really make that connection on the policies that we want to see, whether it's ending police brutality or having better education or better health care for our families. You know, it all starts with making sure that we elect leaders that represent our interests.
Yeah, and so that goes back to sort of what we've been discussing throughout all of these episodes. Is just that it's really important to vote and make your voice heard from a smaller local level all the way up to nationwide. And so with that said, I would love to jump into the voting rights program. And I'd like to talk a little bit about how, you know, even after November 3rd, how is that program going to stay active?
Sure. So depending on how the election shakes out, we do not know yet. But if Congress does become more progressive and more open to pro-democracy legislation, then we have a real opportunity to pass some impactful bills. So the Leadership Conference, we have two main priorities when it comes to voting. One is called the For the People Act, and that's a huge, massive voting rights bill that would end felony disenfranchisement. You know, we hear that a lot of people with felony convictions are blocked from the ballot. So this would end that practice nationwide. It would have automatic voter registration nationwide, same-day voter registration nationwide. I mean, it would do so much just to transform our voting system, and it's something that's critically needed. So that's one priority. Another one is the Voting Rights Advancement Act, which was recently named the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act after he passed away. And that bill is all about restoring the Voting Rights Act that was gutted by the Supreme Court in 2013. So with that bill, states that had a history of voting discrimination way back since the 60s had to have any voting law or policy approved by the federal government before they could put it into place to make sure it didn't discriminate against voters of color. And in 2013, the Supreme Court basically just rubber stamped voter suppression with this case, Shelby County versus Holder. So we've been working since then for 7 years to make sure that we're restoring the Voting Rights Act so we can stop voter suppression, so we can stop strict voter ID laws, voter purges, and massive polling place closures that we know lead to these 5 to 7 hour long lines in majority neighborhoods of people of color.
Right. There's so much that we can do at the polls, whether it's helping somebody get there, whether it's bringing water to support people, and we really salute And Still I Vote for all the work they're doing to make sure people get out and vote. We want to thank you for joining us, Lee.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you guys know and see how determined we are to get you all the information you need to cast a vote properly, and also to know the issues that you're casting your vote for. All I know is if you need more information, go to andstillivote.org and you'll find everything you need. Everything. Trust me.
That's right. We want to thank our guests that joined us today, and thank you so much. And for myself, Freddie, and Free, that is it for our series. We hope you guys are armed and ready to go out there and go and vote. Tell them, Freddie, tell them gotta go.
Yes, we have to go. We don't have time to play, y'all. Actually, we're gonna go right now.
I think the cast. Bye-bye. See you later.